Hello everybody, I'm Dragon Princess and welcome back to my channel. Today I have decided that I would go through all of the books that I read in 2019, which was last year. So, I tried to have a reading goal. It was 12 books, but I managed to read 14 or 13. I think it's 14, I'm not entirely sure. I think it's a little bit like misjudged. But anyway, yeah. So I have a list of all of them and I have my phone because I'm going to tell you the ratings and stuff. This is going to be spoiler free. So I'm not going to go delving into any of it because honestly I don't remember. It's nearly been an entire year since I read all these books, so you'll have to forgive me there. So some of the books that I've put in my good read, some of them have dates on them and some of them don't, so I don't know for some of them exactly when I read them. Some of them I do, so I'll tell you that as well. But I think I'm just going to kind of go in random order. Try and make this as chronologically ordered as I can. Because I have a lot of physical books and then I also used a lot of audiobooks, which surprised me. No, not audiobooks, Kindle, so like ebooks. This year I'm reading a lot of audiobooks, which is surprising me, but I'm going well with it. Of course there will be a 2020 update as well, so I will, once this year is over, I'll review and give my thoughts on those books. But now it's 2019. Okay, I'm not sure when I read this book, but this is The Beast's Heart by theif. I'm gonna be great at butchering names, so you'll have to forgive me. So The Beast's Heart by theif shall cross. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling from the Beast perspective. I read this towards the end, if I remember correctly, I read this towards the end of the year because we were doing Beauty and the Beast. I decided to pick it up. This... I did not like this. Nah, this was a nut for me. It feels very forced. A lot of the relationship between the Belle character and the Beast character feel very forced. Creeped me out and it made me feel very uncomfortable and I just did not like it. Managed to get through the whole book before I just told everyone, do not read it, do not bother, it's bad. So I gave this a 1-star rating. I don't normally do zeros, it's always a 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5. So this is a 1-star. It was very repetitive, very back and forth, and it was definitely Stockholm Syndrome or some sort of a thing, I have no idea. Yeah, basically she goes, the Belle of the story goes through like all of it, hating him, hating the Beast, and then all of a sudden likes him and loves him, and it doesn't make sense. So it's definitely more Stockholm Syndrome-esque than the original Beauty and the Beast, which I believe is not about Stockholm Syndrome whatsoever. This definitely is. It's weird. But yeah, that's the first book. 1 out of 5. Now, let's go up the scale. This is a book that, obviously, as you can see, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson. I have this physical copy, however, I read a little bit and then decided to get the audio, find an audio book of it, which I listened to all the way through. It was very good. I gave it a 3 out of 5. I did learn some things. I believe I learned some things from this book. It is not a book that I would normally pick up. Obviously this is like a self-help book. I believe that's what it would be classified as. But yeah, not something that I would normally pick up. But I did still enjoy it, and I still found it very interesting and insightful. Would recommend, actually. This is quite nice. Don't know if I would read the second one, but yes, so Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson. Would recommend, 3 out of 5. I believe I read this towards the end of the year, or maybe in the middle, end to middle. The next book that I read, I picked up The Night Circus by Erin Morganson. Loved this book. This was amazing. Absolutely loved every little bit of it. Oh, it was so good. Loved the ending. The ending was satisfying. The whole thing was beautifully crafted. I am definitely looking forward to reading her second book, Starless Sea. I am gonna read that on audiobook, but yes, this was, loved it. Loved the characters, loved the story and the world, and it was just amazing. Loved it. I know that a lot of people would say that they would reread this. I am not a rereader. I like to read it once and then be done with it, because I still have all of this to read. Yes, these are unread books, so I'm trying to get through them all. But yeah, this book, really loved it, really inspired by it. So yeah, 5 out of 5. Wonderful. And I believe I read this maybe somewhere at the start of last year. Now I am going, so those are the books that I didn't have a date for, and now I am going to go through and do the dated ones. So this will be me jumping from book cover you see here to physical book that I have. Okay, so the first book that I read in 2019 was The Siren. This book I actually read at the end of 2018 / start of 2019. Sorry, by Kira Cass? Yeah. So this is a book about a mermaid who falls in love with a human, kind of Little Mermaid-esque retelling, but it definitely feels original with this book. I love it. I gave it 4 out of 5 because I feel like it wasn't as good as something like Night Circus. So 4 out of 5 was still really, really good, had no problems with it. It felt super original and I really liked the idea of it. So I finished reading this, apparently from Goodreads, apparently what I've put in here. I finished reading this on the 5th of January in 2019. The next book that I have is actually a physical copy. Surprise, surprise. Is Spells by Aprilline Pike. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Spells. This is the second book. So this is the second book. This is in a series. This is the sequel to Wings, which I read the year before. I read it in 2018. So 2019, got around to finally reading the second book. I don't remember much about it. It was a little bit lacking for me than the first book. Like, I felt like the first book was really, I really like those starting stories, but I find it very hard to sometimes continue on with the second book, especially if it's just supposed to be like a duology. I don't know, something about like that just kind of throws me off. But this book, it was still good. It just felt a little, went in a very different direction from the first book. I still don't know how to feel about that. So I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. And I finished reading this on the 3rd of March 2019. Okay, the next book that I read was also a second in the series. This is The Purple Emperor by Herbrey Brennan. So yeah, so this is the second book in the Fairy Wars thing. I have this whole series that I still have to get through reading, but I managed to finish the second book. Again, kind of with the spells, I finished on the second book and it's kind of, I still like it. I actually do like where this one went. I think it's really nice. I am excited to continue on to the 3rd and 4th book. However, I did lose motivation in 2019, haven't picked it up yet, so maybe in the future I will pick it up when I finally get around to it. But no, I did really like this one. I did really like how we explored each of the characters that were introduced, and we got to see more of their developing issues and their character arc and all that stuff. So I gave this one a 4 out of 5 star rating. We'll definitely be continuing the series. And apparently I finished this as well on the 3rd of March 2019. So I was kind of reading spells and this one at the same time. But yes, also really like this book. The next book that I read, my camera is flashing, I don't know if it's gonna go flat, is the 3rd book in the selection series. Yes, second book. So this is also something that I don't normally go for and pick up. It is a very heavy romance, set in a different world though, so that's what kinda led me to it. I read the selection the year before and finally decided to finish the series with this. Don't know if I'll be able to read something like this again. It was very different for me and it kind of struggled. This book especially was a little bit of a struggle for me. I felt like it wasn't as good as the first one. It kind of waned from what we were getting at with the first one, but I thought it was still a strong continuation. So yeah, I rated this as a 3 out of 5 star. So yeah, so I don't actually have the selection actually physically with me because I first borrowed it from the library, then bought the other 2 books. So yes, but this is a 3 out of 5 for me. Oh, I forgot to mention, I apparently read this finished it on the 19th of March 2019. The next book that I read, or started to read, this was a bit of a struggle for me. So there was a bit of a break in between my reading from the Elite to this next book, because I don't know, I kind of hit a slump with this, so a little bit bad, but that's fine. So the next book that I tried to read was the Assassin's Creed Renaissance. I kind of DNF'd this like a third of the way through or a quarter of the way through. I had this on my Kindle. Yeah, and I decided to DNF it because it was basically the exact same as the games, and I've played all the games, I've done all that. So it wasn't really an interest for me as soon as I found out that it was very similar. So I DNF'd it, and I gave it 2 out of 5 because it just wasn't for me. As I had already learnt the story and knew all that. So for me, and as I said before, rereading stories isn't my thing, so knowing that I already know this story wasn't worth it for me. So that is why. I had apparently DNF'd this on the 17th of August in 2019. So it took me a while. Another book that I had on Kindle was Masquerade. This was another Beauty and the Beast retelling. I wanted to give it another go. my god, was it so much better. This book is amazing. This was like my book of the year. Absolutely loved it. It was such a comeback from reading The Beast's Heart. It was just wonderful. So, this is still very different from Beauty and the Beast. It does have the Beauty and the Beast aspect, but it focuses more on the Belle character, and it has so much more than the original story. It sort of has a story of its own, and the love story between the Belle and the Beast character is sort of a side thing, and I still really like it. The romance in it is, for me, because I'm not a mushy person, was good. Some people, I would say that they would find it lacking. I found it okay. I liked it. I gave this book a 5 out of 5. So it has so much more in it. It goes, pretty much like the Siren, it very much creates its own story and its own world and is almost an original. But the Beauty and the Beast sort of aspect is still in there, which I love. So yeah, so I finished this on the 2nd of September last year, and I gave it a 5 out of 5. Read it on Kindle, was amazing, loved it. Was so happy that I found it and decided to push myself to read it. Because after I read The Beast's Heart, I was like, I never want to touch a Beauty and the Beast retelling story. This saved me. Okay, the next book that I read, I borrowed this from my school's library. So yeah, so apparently I finished reading this on the 2nd of August. Oh no, that was in 2017. Yeah, I just wasted my time, it jumped. Okay, forget about that, I read that in 2017, get that out of here. Okay, the next book that I actually read was another Kindle book that I had called The Amulet Thief. Now, The Amulet Thief was a bit meh for me. I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. It is the first in a series, don't think I'll be continuing it. Basically, it's about a girl who had this like mysterious like mum and this mysterious power, and she gets whooshed up into this world of like hot men and spies and clubs and stuff, and it just wasn't for me. I liked the fantasy aspect of it, but it was so heavily focused on the sort of romance and the sort of mysterious hot guys, and it was just like, yeah, nah. So I don't think I'll be continuing with this series. But yeah, I did manage to finish it. I read the whole thing and it finished very abruptly, I will say that as well. I had no idea we were finishing the book, and then it just ended very abruptly. Did not like that. 2 out of 5 stars, and I finished reading it on the 5th of September. And the next one, I tried to read another popular one that was out of my comfort zone, something that I didn't normally go and pick up. This was The Girl on the Train. This was also an e-Kindle. Did not like this one either. It just didn't resonate for me. Didn't do anything for me. Was not interested in the story. I also DNF'd this book. I did not manage to finish it. I got very close to the ending, or well, not very close, but a little bit over halfway through. But yeah, I did not finish this, and I did not like it at all. It just, yeah, I really liked the fantasy and the historical fiction and sci-fi, and this was none of those, and it didn't really like it at all. No particular reason. I thought the characters were good. I thought it was a very nice story. I can see why it's very popular, just not for me. So I gave this a 2 out of 5 for me, and I DNF'd this on the 6th of September 2019. The next book that I read, I actually have a physical copy. This big one, this is very daunting and it was very hard to read and very long to get through. This is Daughters of the Storm by Kim Wilkins. She is an Australian author, proud Australian. So yeah, so this is about 5 daughters who are princesses that are all from the same family. And their father is on the brink of death and they have to go find a cure and save their kingdom. It's very wonderful. I never thought that this story, even though it was extremely long, never thought it lacked anywhere. Each of the 5 different daughters are very distinguished and very different. They make the story really interesting and they play sort of against and with each other, and it's really interesting dynamics between all of them. There's a few extra side characters in there which just throw more into the mix, and it's a very good story. So this was jam-packed full of fantasy and not so much magic, but a lot of that sort of world building, and it's got a little bit of magic, but it's not as strong. It's not there in your face like some of the other books that I've read, but I still really enjoyed it. I gave this book a 4 out of 5. Honestly don't know why. And I finished reading this on the 6th of September. 2019 was a lot about me trying to get through as many books as I could, and like it led me to read a lot of books at the same time. So yeah, this was super good. I am still looking for the second book in this. However, I do have, if I can, here, way up the top, I have the 3rd book. So this is Queens of the Sea. So it goes Daughters of the Storm is the first one. Sisters of Fire is the second one, which I do not have and cannot find. So I'll be on the search for that. But the Queens of the Sea is the 3rd one, and I have it, obviously. And I'm very excited to reading it when I get around to it. Okay, the next book that I read in 2019 was The Voice of Gods. I found this on Kubo Books, I believe. So it was an indie book and I read it during class. I believe, I looked more into it, I believe this is like a prequel to the actual series. This is by Eleanore Herman, and I believe, yes, it is. It is a one of like the before stories, before the actual main story starts. And the first book is Legacy of Kings, and it's in the blood of gods and royals. And I actually didn't mind it. I actually really like it. I never knew that it was like a prequel. Yeah, prequel to this series. And normally I stay away from those like short stories and stuff because I feel like it doesn't really add anything. Like I don't really need to know. If I feel that a series is great, then I won't really need to read them. But this felt like a full-on good book. Like it had a it wasn't like a really short story like with some of the other ones that I had read, but it was like very consistent, and it felt like I was reading one of the main stories. So very good on that. I'm very happy with that. And I felt like it was a very good setup. So now I am definitely wanting to read the actual series, and there is like another prequel one, so I might read that as well. But yes, very excited about that. I have some backup story, I have some background settings with this now. So yeah, so really like that. I gave this a 3 out of 5 because I didn't feel like it was as good as some of the other books that I read. It was still really, really good. It's more about like how the characters think and what the characters are like that really puts off a book for me. So there are a few characters in here that I really wasn't really connecting with and really didn't like and didn't really want to root for. So that's where it kind of like put it down for me. But still really a good book, really a good story. Definitely want to try and read the full series. So yeah, so I gave this a 3 out of 5 and I finished reading this on the 23rd of October 2019. The next book that I finished reading was the last book in the selection series, The One by Kira Cass. This is a bad one. As I said before, I don't pick up romance novels, and I wasn't really loving the second book. I did actually enjoy the first book, didn't really like the second book. This one was a bit of a flop for me. So I rated this a 2 out of 5. It just fell short. The character I felt really changed and really wasn't what we saw in the first book or even the second book. She's really lame. I didn't like it at all. So yeah, so I don't know, just didn't like it. I'm not going to read the next books because they are about her daughter and I just don't want to start reading these again. So I finished this on the 24th of October 2019. So yeah, so she just became like a weak character and I wasn't following the story along, and the relationship between Prince Maxon and America, it just changed and it was very different and wasn't resonating with it, wasn't liking it, was not doing it for me. But yeah, I did finish it, I did read it, 2 out of 5. The next book that I read and the final book that I read in 2019 before jumping over to 2020 was Cross Stitch. This took me ages to read. I was reading it in between like all of these other books and stuff. So, Cross Stitch by Diana Gabaldon. You might know this as Outlander. This is the very first book, Outlander, in the Outlander series. So this took me a very long time to read. I did really like it. However, I felt that I really liked the characters, really liked the story of it. I don't know whether I'm planning to read the other books. I'm going to try. The only thing that's putting me off is that I felt like the book finished here and I still had all that to go. So like, yeah. So I felt like it was resolved, it was finished, but the story was still going and it just dragged on a bit long for me. And looking at how thick this book is and looking at how thick the other books are, and I know that it changes perspective from like who our kind of main characters are, because my mum has read all of these books and she loves them, so she's trying to get me to read them. She told me that Claire doesn't show up for a while in the other books, so that's kind of putting me off. But yeah, I did really like it. It just dragged on a bit too long than I expected. I expected it to finish and it didn't. Yeah, still really like it. We actually do have all the other books. They are very old. They are from when they are like kind of first published, because I mean this one's called Cross Stitch instead of Outlander. But yeah, my mum has read them all and so I might try and read them all. I rated this a 3 out of 5. and I finished this on the 11th of November 2019. So thank you all so much for watching. Those were the 14, I believe that was 14, books that I read in 2019. Some of them worked really well for me, some of them didn't really, but I really am happy that I read so much more. The year before, in 2018, I only read 3 or 4 books. So last year I really wanted to push myself and try and read more, and obviously this year I was trying to read more as well. I do believe that I'm getting there, but yeah, I still have all of these books to finish. So thank you all so much for watching. Please stick around, and maybe at the end of the year I will be summing up my 2020 books that I have read. Hopefully I will be getting through some more. I know it's only August at the moment I'm filming this, but I hope that I'm gonna like get to my reading goal for this year is 15 books, and I have finished 9. And I'm reading 2 more, and I have a bunch lined up, so hopefully I'll be able to finish it. Thank you all so much for watching, and remember, I'm the Dragon Princess, and I will see you all later. Bye!